Yo, what's up guys? So we have a lot of new Yu-Gi-Oh cards coming out into the game, and obviously there's going to be people that will argue with some new rulings, and it's important to go ahead and know about these new rules for the newer cards coming out into the game. Specifically, Crossed Out Designator. This card will 100% see play in the game, and it's important to know the rules of how this card and interactions work. So it's already posted on the card database, but obviously you guys want the English version, and I'm going to go ahead and sum it up and give you guys what you want, which is basically the condensed version of these new Yu-Gi-Oh rulings, courtesy of the organization's page. I'll link it down below if you guys want to read the full thing, but I'm going to give you guys like the too long, didn't want to read version of it. Alright, so starting off with a card this card will actually see some play in a lot of like burn variant cheese decks. Anyways, let's go ahead and hop right into it. I'll read the effect of the card, then I'll explain exactly what the heck this card's interaction does in certain scenarios, because they do give pretty good examples, and some of them you will be surprised for sure. Anyways, Link Apple over here. So this is a monster that says you can reveal this card in your hand, you banish a random face-down card from your extra deck. And if it's a Link monster, you special summon this card. If not, otherwise discard this card, and if you do, draw one card. You can only use this effect of Link Apple once per turn. So basically, it's going to be used for draw power, and I guess technically in some Link decks, you can RNG banish one, but it's pretty much just used in cheese decks just to be able to banish a random card and then just draw one. That's, again, pretty much what it's going to be used for, especially with decks like it that can just use extravagance anyways. They're just going to throw in random stuff. Anyways, first off, as far as Link Apple goes, the first part of this revealing is the cost to actually activate. It is an ignition effect that activates in the hand. But more importantly, it does specify that it does have to be a random card. However, let's say you only have one card, can you still activate the effect? The answer is yes, you can still activate it even though it's not really random at that point, but it's at the same time it's the only card left. So yes, you can activate it. But more importantly, you can still activate this card's effect halfway if your opponent changed something that would stop half of the effect. And what I mean by that is, let's just use their example because it's probably one of the best here. So, for example, if you activate the effect of Link Apple, but your opponent changed Vanity's Emptiness. I know Vanity's Emptiness is banned, but there's other cards that would, let's say, negate the special summon. I mean, there's tons of cards that can negate special summons, and let's say they just change it to that. What would happen? So, basically, Link Apple resolves while the effect of Vanity's Emptiness is applying. If the monster is banished from the extra deck, is not a Link monster, the effect of discarding Link Apple and drawing one card is applied normally. But if you banish a monster that is a Link monster that would normally let you special summon it, you can't apply the rest of the effect, and it stays in your hand, and also you cannot activate the effect of Link Apple if the effect of Vanity's Emptiness is already applying. So basically, if part of the effect would be stopped as like kind of an RNG, like you don't know what would actually happen, you can't activate it, but if it happens halfway through, you can still apply the RNG effect if it was chained to the effect of you like revealing it in your hand, because that does have to actually activate. So that's just an interesting interaction. Alright, then next card that I want to go over is actually Flying Carp, which I don't even remember seeing this card, but anyways, this is a new water monster. It's a quick effect. You discard a water monster and it gains 500 attack, and when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you contribute this card to special summon a fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster from your hand or deck. You can only use each effect of it once per turn. Pretty much we're only really using it for the discard effect, but technically there is another effect. Well, yeah, if you happen to be able to run over something that has 1,000, you can special summon something. So the first part of the effect to be able to increase, it does not target, and it is a cost to activate the effect. The second part is if you activate it, it must be actually at the start of the damage step or before damage calculation, which again is kind of interesting. But on top of that, the effect that special summons a fish, whatever, aqua, from your deck is a trigger effect, and it does not target, and it can be activated optionally at the end when it destroys. And the most important part is tributing it is a cost for the effect. And another thing, I thought this was kind of self-explanatory, but if you attack a monster that happens to have the same attack as him, even if you increase the attack, you cannot apply the effect if this card is actually destroyed. I felt like that was self-explanatory because technically you have to tribute the card, which means it should not be on the field, but again, they had to just add that, and I figured I'd just mention it real quick. Alright, the next one actually has to do with the insect Shinobi Link monster. It might have the name changed, so I'm just going to call it the insect Shinobi Link monster. But anyways, it requires 2 monsters with different names, but we're really here for the effect of, while it points to a monster, your opponent cannot target this card for attacks. But if a monster this card points to is destroyed by battle by card effect, you get to actually special summon a level 4 or lower insect monster from your hand or graveyard, but you banish it when it leaves the field, and you can only use this effect of it once per turn. The question was, if he gets destroyed and the other monster that he's pointing to gets destroyed at the same time, can he still apply his effect as long as it was targeting at the time of destruction, and if he's also destroyed at the time? For example, the best example would be just like Dark Hole for this. So it's pointing to a face down Dark Hole, it doesn't really matter. Is his effect able to apply? And the effect of it that special summons level 4 or lower monster in your hand or graveyard is a trigger effect that activates on the field, so you cannot activate that effect, unfortunately. The next one is actually has to do with a card that I thought was pretty cool, but I don't think it's that good anymore because there's so many minuses with this card's effect. So this is 2 Toads with 1 hop. It's an equip spell card. And it says, activate this by targeting 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, and you special summon it to your opponent's field, but you negate its effects, and you equip it with this card. And when this card leaves the field, you destroy that monster. The equipped monster cannot attack, and also monsters cannot target it for attacks. If this card is sent to the graveyard because the equipped monster is used for anything, Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link material, you get to take control of that Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link monster forever. And you can only activate only 1 of them per turn. But alright, so the first fight obviously targets, we don't need to argue with that, but sometimes, like, you know, certain wordings, depending on the print, can technically make a difference. I know with the Altergeist, sometimes just some small text can make a huge difference. But anyways, the most important part of this effect over here is that this card effect that takes control of an opponent's Fusion, Synchro, Exceed monster that was used for the equipped monster starts a chain and activates in the graveyard, which is really unfortunate because that basically means that, like, it could easily be stopped by so many things. Not only does it have to activate that part of the effect in the graveyard, even though you already activated it, I guess, in the very beginning steps, that's a separate chain. So that's absolutely terrible. But more importantly, there's actually something pretty important against Thunder Dragons. Okay, so you activate it and you special summon a Thunder Dragon from your opponent's graveyard. And if your opponent tributes the equipped monster to summon a Thunder Dragon Colossus, the way it's written on the text will the effect of it actually activate. And there's other cards where it can basically be fusioned by, like, other ways, but special summoning the Thunder Dragon Colossus using the procedure written in its text is not actually a fusion summon. So there's more than just, like, Thunder Dragon, but that's probably the more relevant fusion nowadays. And it says, therefore, in this situation, the effect of 2 Toads with 1 hop that takes control does not activate. So if it's not considered it to be a fusion summon, it doesn't actually work. Which is, again, it just makes the card worse, and it already is worse than because of these 2 parts of the effect. Alright, the next one up was a card I didn't even think I covered on this channel, because this card, I saw it, I was like, dude, this card's amazing. This is Drumming with Excitement. And it says, when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, while the combined attack of all face-up monsters your opponent controls is 8,000 or more, you get to special summon 3 monsters with different original names, 1 from your hand, 1 from your deck, and 1 from your graveyard in attack position. You can only activate 1 of them per turn. So going into what they actually say for the ruling, it does not actually target. And the monsters that are special summoned are at the same time, and you cannot activate this card if you don't have monsters with different names, which should be actually obvious because it does specify that anyways. But the main thing that really sucks with this is because they special summon them all at the same time in this scenario. Let's say your opponent activates DD Crow or any of these, like, cards called anything that would, like, get rid of that one of the cards, whatever zone, or just stops one of them. All right. If you do not have a monster that can be special summoned, either when resolving the effect is not applied, no monster is special summoned. So yeah, if your opponent's activating DD Crow and banishes the only one in your graveyard and you don't have another one, well, that's just too bad for you. If you're not getting all 3, you're not getting any of them, which, again, that's unfortunate, but that's just the way it works. Alright, and I believe this is the last card that I wanted to mention over here, which is, this card will 100% see some play. This is Cross Out Designator. It's basically like a Call by the Grave, but it can stop other things like impermanence. So you declare a card name, you banish 1 card with that name from your deck, and if you do until the end of this turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of cards with the same original name. You can only activate one per turn, and it's a quick play. That's the most important part. This can stop a lot more things, and especially against like the mirror match. This is going to be an excellent side deck card, that's for sure. But anyways, important things. It does not target, and it cannot be activated during the damage step. You declare out the name of one card currently in your deck at the time of activating it, and this card's effect will negate the effects of both your cards and your opponents with the same name, and this card's effect will negate the effects of cards that activate or apply on the field, as well as that activate in the hand or grave. So basically it's just saying like just anywhere you're good with this card. And this funny thing is that what if you call Harpy Lady? Well, yeah, if you call Harpy Lady, the effect of them increasing all the wind by 300 would technically be negated if you happen to have one in your deck. But the interesting thing is you do get to actually banish that extra card, so it can actually help you out by deck thinning a card maybe you don't want to actually go into later. And then so another interesting thing is if your opponent activates, let's say Iron Wall, so you can't actually banish. So if you activate Cross Out and you say Monster Reborn, but your opponent chains Imperial Iron Wall, or again, something that just prevents from banishing, let's say for example. In this scenario, the Crossed Out Detonator resolves why the effect of Imperial Iron Wall prevents players from banishing card is applying. In that case, you can't apply the part that banishes a card with the declared name, so it Monster Reborn in the situation remains in your deck, and the effects of Monster Reborn are not negated this turn, so you don't actually have to send it if you can't meet those requirements, and if the effect of Imperial Iron Wall is already playing, you can't actually even activate it. So let's say you can't banish cards, then you can't actually do that. But the most important thing that I wanted to go over is that it would not actually be like sent as like a cost or anything, because well, you can't actually apply that. Anyways, this is also another interesting thing. If your opponent activates Cross-Out Designator by declaring Inspector Border and banishing an Inspector Border from their deck during this turn, if you activate Forbidden Lance charging your Inspector Border, what happens? In this scenario, if the effect is applied to Inspector Border, that Inspector Border becomes unaffected by the effect of Cross-Out Designator, so its effect that limits players from activating monster effects will be applied again. Alright, so those are the new rulings from the new cards. You guys can let me know your thoughts on them. I thought the Thunder Dragon one was interesting, but I didn't know that this card had so many downsides. After you like activated it, it would start another chain, and then the other part has to activate in the graveyard. Interesting stuff, and it's always good to be updated on newer Yu-Gi-Oh card rulings. Anyways, hopefully this video helped you out, guys, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. If you're new here, you want to see more card rulings and more Yu-Gi-Oh content, hit the subscribe button and turn on that bell, and you'll definitely see more. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.